In this video, I'm going to be going over the experiences and lessons learned working with the top-of-the-line cinema camera, the ARRI Alex Mini LF. This camera was originally rented out by the crew to shoot one narrative piece relating to a chef. But since it was a weekend rental, we had the camera from Friday all the way to Monday morning. So as it was our first experience working with this camera, why not shoot on it the whole weekend to get as much content as possible? And with that being said, we actually shot 5 pieces. The first being a dance performance, the second being a live style music performance, the third the narrative piece with the chef, the fourth a visualizer for a music piece, the fifth a narrative piece for a choreographer and dancer from Toronto. Now, working with a cinema camera can be very intimidating, and when it comes to renting out one of these cameras, you need a full crew to do it. This is not a solo operation anymore. In addition to the actual ARRI, we rented out all the necessary accessories for the cage, monitor mounts, battery mounts, cables, and everything that has to do with the camera. Sigma Cine prime lenses. We also rented out a Dana dolly, follow focus systems, and then we use all of our personal gear in terms of lighting and grip equipment. Like I said, when you start to bring cinema cameras onto sets, you need a full team to operate them. As we're all looking to get time on the camera, we all took different roles throughout the whole weekend. This just gave us experience in a lot of the roles. Some shoots I was doing lighting and grip, another shoot I was doing directing, and then the other I was doing camera operation. We all brought skills to the table, and this just made the process of shooting all these projects a lot easier. No one was fighting to get time on the camera, and everybody understood what had to get done. This project I'm going to be talking about specifically is the visualizer for the music video, as well as the narrative piece for the dancer/choreographer. These 2 shoots were done in Studio AM, which is a giant studio that has a ton of flexibility for what you want to do. Shout out to Studio AM for letting us use it that day. It was an amazing experience. For the music video visualizer, that was my project and I was acting as the director, and I storyboarded everything in Milanote. So the artist and I, Shadell, which is a very talented artist that I went to high school with, we decided on the song that we're going to actually shoot, and that was a song that she simply recorded on her phone. And we wanted to contrast the high-end visuals to a voice note that was recording on her phone, just to show that you can create anything at any time with the tools at hand. We just thought the contrast between the low quality audio recording to the high-end visuals was just a beautiful concept. As we said before, the mood board and storyboard was drafted up on Milanote, and throughout the songs, I just took timestamps where I wanted scene changes. Then with all the gear that I had in mind, I knew exactly what focal lengths, what frame rates, and what the artist was going to do at that point. As the artist is not going to be performing in this because this was just a visualizer. We actually shot this video twice. All the movements are relatively the same. One setup I wanted to do had a lot of contrast on the subject using the Titan tubes, and the other was having the subject flat and with a whiteout room. These are just 2 concepts I wanted to do because it was an easy setup and transfer between the 2. So going through the shots, we have a simple dolly in using the Dana dolly, and I was set up on the director's monitor directing Justin and Adrian for the shot specifically. Then we switched to a handheld setup to capture the details. We shot some movements at 24 frames and 60 frames, and you have to play with the frame rates in terms of what you actually want to do. I came from the world of where I was shooting on a Sony a7S III, and everything I shot was at 120 frames per second. As I developed, I rarely shoot at 120 frames per second. My main frame rate is for 24 frames, and then when I want to capture emotion, like we did in this scene here, I shoot to 60. Any specialized shots, yes, I will shoot in 120 or any higher frame rates. And then as she goes down into a known as a safe position, we do a dolly out. We shot the intro shot and that shot first because it was the same setup. This is a very important and a note that I wish I knew a long time ago. You always want to plan out your shots. And as we had the Dana dolly already set up, we did a simple push in for the first shot, and then we said, okay, we're gonna capture the shot where she's going down because the Dana dolly is already set up, and then we can do a simple push out. And then we shot both versions up into this point because we knew we were gonna move the camera up into the rafters using sticks or a tripod. So we set up for the first setup with the lights, and then we set up for the second setup with her just being there in the empty right room. The lighting was pretty straightforward. We used the projector in the room to bounce light off the ceiling. This just set nice room tone, and then as well as we used the Forza 500 shooting through a scrim, and this was our main key for the subject. Any other times that we were pushing in and wanted nice detail, we threw up a panel light and keyed her off as well. All in all, I was very happy with the project, and this was my first time just solely being a director. And Justin, Adrian, Jason, and Zamora just made this a very easy process because I was only solely to focus on the director's monitor and telling exactly what I wanted, and then they would solve that problem for me, and then I would just call action on the movements and then give my input and what we could change and go from there. Now the next shoot in terms of the narrative piece with the dancer and choreographer was I was acting as a DP, so I was operating the camera, and then this was an experience in itself. So this was kind of a stage interview, and we wanted to show a kind of behind the scenes of what goes on in terms of his process when he's doing his choreography. So initially we had an interview set up where Justin was asking his questions, and we shot this interview twice, and we had the camera floating around a bunch of different angles to make it look like that we had like maybe 3 or 4 cameras rolling at once. And just the handheld look just looks amazing when it comes to these narrative pieces. And there's a few shots that Justin wanted. He just planned this all out and told me the shots. And one shot specifically that he wanted a one take from the artist walking into the space, greeting the dancer that he was working with, and then the dancer performing those movements, and then his feedback, which would lead into a hero shot. Camera. Now when it came to the final edit, this actually didn't make the full cut because of just the nature of a one take. It was pretty long, and then this video was really snappy between the hero shots, him performing, and the interview. Justin was really happy, and we actually got it on the first take, but we rolled a few for safety, and this was my first time doing a one take handheld as well, pulling manual focus. These cinema cameras do not have autofocus. I believe only the Sony Venice does, and this is just something that has to go along with cinema cameras, and this is why that you need a full team. Luckily for this, I was pulling manual focus, but you could set up a Nucleus or Cinegear system so that you could have a first AC pull focus. But for all these shots and shoots we did, the operator was pulling focus themselves. And then after that, we set up the lights in different configurations, and we kind of freestyled the shots that he wanted. We backlit him to give him a silhouette. Also, we keyed him to give him nice shadows and shape to the face. And then also another shot that we tried was a simple push in with the backlights coming off and the key light coming in. So he would come from a silhouette to a side key lit, which would highlight his face and just be more dramatic.
I'm not really big on labels. I'd rather say that I am just a human being that pursues creativity in every area of my life. As long as you are.
Now again, this was kind of on the fly because we were shooting for 3 days straight, so we planned as much as possible, but we got a lot of shots that really turned out. That sums up the experience with the cinema camera. There's so much more I can talk about. The main reason we did it was to get our feet wet in that ecosystem and then say, hey, how can we apply this to the rest of their shoots? And then how can we get people to rent out this camera for us so we can say that, hey, we've worked on this camera before. It's very intimidating to work with one of those cameras because movies like The Joker, The Black Panther have been shot on that, and then you see the image quality of that and you're saying, how can I produce an image like that? And for all those filmmakers starting out, even if you're working on a mirrorless camera, prior to working with this ARRI Alexa, I was still shooting on my Sony a7S III, which I still do to this day. And working with a cinema camera just has changed my mind and the way I think about shooting things in just a whole different level. And then I apply those concepts shooting on my mirrorless camera today, and I just get so much better results with that mindset in terms of the style that I want to produce and the films that I want to make. That wraps it up. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. If you have any comments or questions or anything you'd like to say, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more.